The water churned violently, sending ripples across the otherwise peaceful Alaskan river. The early morning mist still clung to the treetops as Jack Harrison adjusted the camera strap around his neck. He had spent years photographing the untamed beauty of the wild, but nothing could prepare him for what he saw next. A massive brown bear was thrashing the water, its powerful limbs growing weaker with each desperate attempt to stay afloat. Jack's heart pounded. A drowning bear. This was no ordinary sight. Bears were strong swimmers, built for the wild currents of rivers and lakes. Something was terribly wrong. Backhand index pointing right before we dive into this incredible true story. Don't forget to hit the white heavy checkmark subscribe, white heavy checkmark button, drop a like, and leave a comment. Have you ever seen an animal in need? What would you do in Jack's situation? Let us know below. Asterisk, asterisk. A moment of decision. Jack's hands tightened around the wooden edge of his small fishing boat. He had come out for a quiet morning of nature photography, but now he found himself staring at a life-or-death situation. The bear's head bobbed above the surface for a second before sinking again. No time to hesitate. Jack knew the risks. A wild bear, especially one in distress, could be unpredictable, even deadly. But standing by and watching wasn't an option. Grabbing an oar, he paddled toward the struggling animal, every stroke of water pushing him closer to danger. His instincts screamed at him to turn back, but his heart told him otherwise. Come on, big guy, just hold on. As he got closer, Jack could see exhaustion in the bear's eyes. It had likely been caught in the river's strong undercurrent, and with its soaked fur weighing it down, the fight was slipping away. Man versus nature. Jack's mind raced. How do you rescue a 600-pound bear from drowning? He rummaged through his boat for something. Anything that could help. His eyes landed on a thick rope coiled at the base. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Carefully, he looped the rope into a makeshift lasso and tossed it toward the bear, hoping to snag it around the animal's body. One try. Miss! Asterisk, asterisk. Second try. The rope grazed the bear's side but slipped away in the current. Jack gritted his teeth. He was running out of time. Third try. This time, the loop slid perfectly over the bear's massive neck and shoulders. Jack tightened the knot, gripping the other end of the rope with all his strength. The moment the tension hit, the bear thrashed violently, nearly pulling Jack straight into the water. A fight for survival had begun, a race against time. Jack dug his feet into the boat's deck and leaned back, using all his strength to pull the bear toward the shallows. The boat rocked dangerously, the cold spray of water hitting his face. The bear let out a deep, guttural growl, not of aggression, but of sheer exhaustion. It had no energy left to resist. Inch by inch, Jack pulled. His muscles screamed in protest, but adrenaline pushed him forward. Just a little more, buddy. He grunted. The bear's massive paw scraped the riverbed, and finally, with one last tug, Jack dragged the bear into the shallows. For a moment, neither of them moved. The bear collapsed onto the muddy shore, panting heavily. Jack fell onto his back in the boat, his own chest rising and falling rapidly. He had done it. But before he could even process what had just happened, something unexpected happened. The bear didn't run. It lay there, staring at Jack, not with fear, not with aggression, but with something almost human. To be continued. Eyes, what happens next will leave you speechless. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where Jack realizes his bear isn't just any wild animal. It's about to change his life forever. Asterisk, asterisk. Speech balloon, tell us. Would you try to save the bear, or was Jack crazy for risking it? Drop a comment below. Asterisk, asterisk. The river's surface rippled as the massive bear lay motionless on the shore, its soaked fur clinging to its body. Jack Harrison, still gripping the rope with trembling hands, could hardly believe what had just happened. He had done it, but now an even bigger question loomed. What happens next? A 600-pound bear, weakened but very much alive, was just a few feet away. The logical part of Jack's brain screamed at him to retreat. Asterisk, asterisk, this was still a wild animal. After all, asterisk, asterisk. But something about the way the bear lay there, its chest rising and falling in ragged breaths, made him hesitate. Backhand index pointing right before we get into what happened next. Don't forget to hit white heavy checkmark subscribe, white heavy checkmark drop a like, and tell us, have you ever had a close encounter with a wild animal? Let us know in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. A moment of uncertainty. Jack stayed frozen, barely breathing. If the bear suddenly regained its strength and decided to attack, there would be no time to react. But it didn't. Instead, the bear just stared at him. Its deep brown eyes, still full of exhaustion, seemed to hold something else, a strange mix of confusion and recognition. Jack swallowed hard. He had spent years in the wild, observing animals through his camera lens. But this was different. This wasn't a creature acting on instinct alone. It understood something had just happened. The bear let out a deep, low grunt and slowly shifted its massive body. Jack tensed. Would it lunge at him? Run away? Instead, the bear did something Jack never expected. It didn't move. It simply sat there, its breathing slowing, watching him. A decision that could change everything. Jack knew he couldn't leave the bear in this state. It was exhausted, disoriented, and possibly injured. But what could he do? His mind raced. Calling for help wasn't an option. He was miles away from the nearest ranger station, and cell service was non-existent out here in the wild. His only choice? Stay and see if the bear could recover on its own. Slowly, carefully, Jack reached for his camera bag and pulled out a small water bottle. He had no idea if the bear would drink from it, but it was worth a try. He inched forward, heart hammering, and carefully poured a small stream of water onto the muddy ground in front of the bear. The bear's nose twitched. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, to Jack's shock, the bear lowered its massive head and lapped up the water. Jack exhaled, barely realizing he had been holding his breath. This was incredible. The bond begins. As the minutes passed, the bear remained still, occasionally shifting its weight. It was clearly regaining some strength. Jack, keeping a respectful distance, observed every movement with cautious fascination. Finally, after what felt like hours, the bear slowly stood up. It wobbled slightly, but found its balance. Jack instinctively tightened his grip on the edge of his boat. This was the moment of truth. Would the bear turn aggressive? Would it flee? Instead, the bear did something truly astonishing. It looked back at Jack. Not just a glance. Asterisk, asterisk, a lingering, thoughtful gaze, asterisk, asterisk. Then, with one last deep breath, the bear slowly lumbered toward the trees. It paused once more, as if making sure Jack was still there, before disappearing into the forest. Jack sat there, stunned. He had expected relief, maybe even fear. Instead, all he felt was a deep, unexplainable connection. What had just happened was more than a simple rescue. It was the start of something much bigger. To be continued. Eyes, what happens next will leave you speechless. In Chapter 3, Jack returns to the forest, only to discover that the bear isn't gone. In fact, it's watching him, but why? Asterisk, asterisk. Speech balloon, tell us. Do you think animals remember kindness? Would you trust a bear after saving it? Drop a comment below. Asterisk, asterisk. Jack couldn't shake the feeling. For days after rescuing the bear, he found himself replaying the moment over and over. The way the animal had looked at him. Asterisk, asterisk, not with fear, not with aggression, but with something almost understanding. Asterisk, asterisk. Had he imagined it? Out here in the Alaskan wilderness, nature followed its own set of rules. Animals didn't owe humans anything. A bear should have either run or attacked, not stared at him as if it recognized him. And yet, something told Jack that his story with this bear wasn't over. Backhand index pointing right before we dive in. Don't forget to hit white heavy checkmark subscribe, white heavy checkmark drop a like, and tell us, have you ever felt a real connection with an animal? Share your story in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. A strange feeling in the woods. A week after the rescue, Jack returned to the same riverbank, camera in hand. He wasn't sure why. Maybe to check for tracks? Maybe to reassure himself that the bear had recovered? Or maybe, just maybe, to see if it would come back. Morning was crisp, the scent of pine thick in the air. As he hiked along the rocky shoreline, his boots crunching against the damp earth, Jack noticed something strange. Silence. No birds. No rustling leaves. No distant animal calls. Just an eerie, unnatural stillness. Jack slowed his steps. His heart pounded. He wasn't alone. He could feel it. The bear returns. Then, just ahead in the trees, a shadow shifted. Jack froze. A pair of deep brown eyes stared back at him from the foliage. It was the bear. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't expected this. The bear didn't charge. It didn't growl. It just stood there, watching him. Jack barely dared to move. His instincts told him to back away. This was still a wild predator. But something in him whispered, "Wait, don't run." Asterisk, asterisk. So he held his ground. Seconds stretched into what felt like minutes. Finally, the bear did something that left Jack speechless. It took a step forward. Then another, not aggressively, not in a way that signaled danger, but with purpose. A shocking realization. Jack's fingers twitched near his camera, but he hesitated. This moment wasn't just something to capture. It was something to experience. The bear came closer. Close enough that Jack could see the water-darkened fur still clinging to its coat, the same coat that had been soaked and heavy the day he pulled it from the river. It was the same bear. But this time it wasn't alone. Just beyond the trees, two small shapes emerged. Asterisk, asterisk cubs. Asterisk, asterisk. Jack's stomach flipped. Was this a mother bear? It all made sense now. The desperate struggle in the water, the exhaustion. She wasn't just fighting for her life. She was fighting to return to her babies. And now, she was showing him, more than just an animal. Jack didn't move, barely breathing. The mother bear looked at her cubs, then back at him. She wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't threatening him. She was acknowledging him. Jack had saved her, and somehow, in whatever way a bear could understand, she wanted him to know she remembered. For the first time in his life, Jack understood something deeper than any wildlife documentary or nature book could ever teach. Animals don't just survive. They feel. They remember. Asterisk, asterisk. And sometimes they come back. To be continued. Eyes, what happens next will leave you speechless. In Chapter 4, Jack makes a shocking discovery about the mother bear's past and realizes her connection runs deeper than he ever imagined. Asterisk, asterisk. Speech balloon, tell us. Do you think animals have emotions like humans? Would you be scared or amazed if this happened to you? Drop a comment below. Asterisk. Changes before we move to Chapter 4. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Jack stood frozen, his breath shallow, as the mother bear and her cubs stared back at him from the edge of the trees. She had come back. Not out of fear. Not out of instinct. But out of something else. Asterisk, asterisk. For days, Jack had wrestled with the idea that this bear might actually remember him. But now, she was standing there, her cubs peeking out from behind her massive frame, watching him with calm, intelligent eyes. Backhand index pointing right before we dive deeper. Don't forget to hit white heavy checkmark subscribe, white heavy checkmark drop a like. And tell us, do you believe animals remember acts of kindness? Share your thoughts in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. A moment of understanding. Jack's fingers twitched near his camera, but he hesitated. Some moments weren't just meant to be captured. They were meant to be felt. The mother bear took a slow step forward. Jack's pulse raced, but something in her posture told him she wasn't a threat. She was communicating. With a deep, slow exhale, Jack made a decision. He didn't run. He didn't move. He simply stood there, asterisk, asterisk. And then something even more astonishing happened. The bear lowered her head, not in submission, not in fear, but in recognition. Jack swallowed hard. Was this her way of saying thank you? A shocking discovery. Jack barely noticed when the bear turned away, her cubs following close behind. She disappeared into the trees, but not before one final glance over her shoulder. A silent confirmation that this connection was real. Jack exhaled a shaky breath, his mind racing. He needed to know more. That night, back at his cabin, Jack did something he hadn't done in years. He pulled out his old wildlife research files. He had been a photographer for over a decade, but before that, he had been a wildlife researcher. And deep in those old files, he had information about bears that had been tracked in this region. His hands trembled as he searched through notes, old photos, and reports from wildlife conservation teams. And then he found it, a photo, a marked female bear, recorded 2 years ago by local wildlife trackers. She had been tagged with a GPS collar until the signal was lost. And next to the photo, one detail stood out. She had been orphaned as a cub. The connection runs deeper. Jack sat back, the realization hitting him like a tidal wave. This wasn't just any bear. She had survived against all odds, learning to fend for herself without a mother to guide her. And yet, in the moment when she was at her weakest, struggling in that river, moments from drowning, Jack had saved her, And now, as a mother herself, she had come back, not just to remember, to show him her cubs. Jack ran a hand through his hair, still staring at the file. This wasn't just a wild encounter. This wasn't just a lucky rescue. This was proof that animals could form bonds beyond survival, beyond instinct. They could remember, they could understand, and sometimes they could say thank you. To be continued. Eyes, what happens next will leave you speechless. In Chapter 5, Jack returns to the forest and comes face to face with a bear in a way that will change his life forever. Speech Balloon, tell us, do you think wild animals form emotional bonds? Would you feel honored or terrified if this happened to you? Drop a comment below. Jack could barely sleep. The discovery that the bear he had rescued was once an orphan cub herself replayed over and over in his mind. She hadn't just remembered him. She had returned to show him her own cubs, as if honoring the connection they now shared. But why? Did she trust him? Was this some kind of instinctual recognition? Or was it something deeper? Jack had spent his life photographing nature, studying it from a distance. But for the first time, he wasn't just observing. He was part of the story. Backhand index point right before we dive into this emotional chapter. Don't forget to hit white heavy checkmark subscribe, white heavy checkmark drop a like, and tell us, do you believe animals form emotional bonds like humans? Let us know in the comments. A risk worth taking. The next morning, Jack made a decision. He grabbed his camera, strapped on his hiking boots, and headed back into the forest. Not to chase the bear, not to force another meeting, but to see if she would find him. Hours passed. He wandered through the dense pines, the crisp mountain air filling his lungs. No signs of her. Maybe she had moved on. Maybe she had just needed to show him her cubs that one time. But then, a soft crack of a branch. Jack's body tensed. He wasn't alone. SLWY, he turned, and his breath hitched. There she was, standing just a yard away, her massive frame partially hidden by the trees. Her cubs weren't with her this time. It was just her, and she was looking right at him. A moment of trust. Jack's instinct screamed at him to back away. This was still a wild bear, but something deep inside told him, stay. So he did. Carefully, he lowered himself to the forest floor, sitting cross-legged in the dirt. He made no sudden movements, no gestures of dominance or fear, just stillness. The bear watched him, her deep brown eyes full of something he couldn't quite explain. Then, in the most unexpected and breathtaking moment of his life, she took a step forward. Then another. Jack's pulse pounded, but he didn't move. The bear came closer, her massive paws silent on the damp earth. She was now only a few feet away. Jack could hear her slow, steady breathing. He could see the way her fur shifted with each deep inhale. And then she sat down, right there, facing him. A wild bear, a creature that should fear or ignore him, was sitting just feet away, as if choosing to share the space with him. Jack's throat tightened. This wasn't instinct. This wasn't survival. This was trust. Something deeper than survival. Jack didn't know how long they sat there. Minutes? Hours? Time blurred as he and the bear simply existed in the same space. He felt no fear, no tension, just peace. For the first time in his life, Jack understood something in a way no textbook or documentary ever could. Animals are more than just creatures of instinct. They feel, they remember, they choose. And today, this bear had chosen him To be continued. Eyes, what happens next will leave you in awe. In Chapter 6, Jack's story takes a turn that will change the way we see wildlife forever. Don't miss it. Asterisk, asterisk. Speech balloon, tell us. Would you stay still like Jack, or would you run? Have you ever felt a deep connection with an animal? Drop a comment below. Asterisk, asterisk. Yet here he was. The massive creature sat just feet away, her deep brown eyes locked onto his. No fear, no aggression, just understanding. Asterisk, asterisk. He had spent his entire life studying animals, but anything had prepared him for this. This wasn't just survival. This was trust. Backhand index point right before we dive into this heart-stopping finale. Don't forget to hit white heavy checkmark subscribe, white heavy checkmark drop a like, and tell us, do you think animals form emotional bonds like humans? Let us know in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. A moment that changes everything. Jack didn't move. He barely even breathed. The bear remained still, watching him with an expression he could only describe as recognition. Then, something unbelievable happened. She leaned forward. Jack's pulse pounded. This was it. If she felt threatened, he had no chance. But deep down, something told him she didn't come here to hurt him. And then, she exhaled. A slow, deep breath, her warm breath rolling over him like a soft gust of wind. Jack exhaled, too. A silent exchange, a moment of pure connection, a final goodbye, or a new beginning. Asterisk, asterisk. For what felt like hours, Jack and the bear remained like this. Asterisk, asterisk, just two souls, understanding each other without words. Asterisk, asterisk. Then, as if sensing the moment had reached its end, she slowly rose to her feet. Jack didn't move. The bear turned, her massive frame shifting effortlessly as she stepped back toward the trees. But before disappearing into the shadows, she did something Jack would never forget. She looked back, not a quick glance, a real deliberate look, a farewell, and then she was gone. A changed man, asterisk, asterisk. Jack sat there long after she left, his mind racing. He had spent his life believing that humans and animals existed in separate worlds, that bears, wolves, and all wild creatures acted only on instinct. But now he knew better. Animals feel, animals remember, and sometimes they choose us. Jack packed up his camera that day, but he didn't take a single picture. Some moments aren't meant to be captured. They're meant to be lived. The story lives on. Jack never saw the bear again, but he never forgot her. And somewhere, deep in the wild, he knew. Asterisk, asterisk, she hadn't forgotten him either. Asterisk, asterisk. The end, or just the beginning? Eyes, would you believe this if it happened to you? Do you think wild animals can form true bonds with humans? Let's discuss in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. Speech balloon, and if you love this story, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in the magic of nature.